It's my first time in Adelaide. Well, I watch it quite a lot on the Grand Prix when we get it in England. And I was taken around the racetrack, the circuit last night, and it looks absolutely fabulous. And so does this house. And this is our second concert, clinic, whatever, in Australia. And it's absolutely wonderful to be here. Lovely to see so many people as well. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. Okay, you've heard what I can do, now what can you do? One by one, also 635. Right. Okay, well, really, rather than me amble on about loads of things, I think it's much better if you ask me some questions, and then I'll do my best to answer them, really.
What was it like working with Pete Townsend?
What was it like working with Pete Townsend? Very pleasurable. Yes, we've done quite a few projects together. If I'm right in saying that film clip was Give Blood. And well, that was the White City album, but before that we did two before that, All Cowboys of Chinese Eyes, something like that, and Empty Glass. And that was first recorded in 1979, so it's going back quite a bit. Yes, in fact, we've just started a new album. I played a bit of drums on it, but mostly I've been programming a synclavier. And what we've done, we've taken this funny drum kit here and sampled it all into the synclavier. But when I say sampled, we've done it in a very special way. We've done an awful lot of samples so we can get all the dynamics of the drum kit. I was a bit dubious at first, but he insisted on that we must do the album on a synclavier. And I'm saying it does sound very good, but it won't be out for a long time. So it's the Who 25th anniversary this year, so we'll get put back a bit.
Apart from yourself, do you know John Bonham and Paris?
What, apart from knowing myself? Yeah. I know New Bonzo, John Bonham, because sadly he died before I could meet him. Yes.
What do you think of Neil Peart as a player?
Neil Peart? What do I think of Neil Peart as a player? Well, I'm not really, I've never seen him play. So I've heard him on record, it sounds great on record, but I'd like to see the guy play, so I can't really say. Yes?
Apart from the live album, did you do any other work with 801?
I shall repeat these questions so we can hear. Apart from the live album, did I do any other albums with a group called 801, which had Brian Eno and Phil Manzanero? That was the only live album and the only band album we did. We did two more after that, two studio albums, but they were really more Phil Manzanero's solo album. It was like Phil Manzanero and 801. And we haven't done anything ever since. But funny enough, I talked to him, I think it was last year, and we sort of vaguely threatened to get together again. It's just time, it's just me out here and he's somewhere else, getting together all at the same time. Question to you, yes?
So I need to get to work with Jeff Beck and later on Pete Townsend.
How do I get to work with Jeff Beck? Later on Pete Townsend? I don't know. I mean, you get to meet musicians because you play a certain way. So you turn up, you get asked to do an album, or you get asked to do a bit of an album. And on that session might be a musician who is working with another guy who's working with somebody else, and slowly it just gets round. These people like Jeff and Pete, at certain stages in their lives, are often looking for new players, you know. And it's just as the two meet, really. He says, oh, I'm looking for a drummer. And Max Middleton say, I'm playing the horse. Oh, what about Simon? Yeah. And then you go and you meet him. The first time I met Jeff, he had all over his hands because he likes to work with his car. Hello, Jeff. And then he picks up the guitar. If you play his guitars, you get really dirty if you wash your hands. That's that last Chevy you just drained. And that's what happened. We just sat down and we played, and from there on, 1978 onwards, we're still playing together occasionally, just not uncovered. Pete Alexander saying, you know, Dave Gilmore, Jimmy Page, or whoever. It's an ongoing situation.
What was Michael Schenker like to work with?
What was Michael Schenker like to work with? Well, when I worked with him, he was great. He was very together. It was a good fun album that we did. It was only now. I couldn't do the tour because I was already with Jeff who was there still. And we had a great time. We spent like 3 weeks doing the album, I think. And he was a very funny man. He was lovely. So good fun for me. You know. I didn't put up with 3 weeks of it. This is often the case if you're doing an album. If you're doing an album, it's interesting because you get involved with a lot of different types of people and a lot of different managements and different ways of doing things. So it's quite fun, you know, for like 4 weeks of your life, you're working with that band, and you might never see them again. Well, you will. You'll see them in some club in Hamburg or wherever, you know. And it's quite nice. I rather like that when I work. It's rather nice to meet a lot of people, and you get a lot of experience with different types of musicians and different types of music as well. Yes.
Working with Pete Townsend, did you feel you had to fit in with any kind of legend that was set by Keith Moon years ago, or did you create your own style?
Everybody heard that, didn't they? No, not at all. In fact, one of the main things when I do work with these people, I purposely play probably as far away from what they're normally used to doing as possible. Because what I like to try and do is bring to them a new way of playing. That's one of the reasons they would ask me to do it in the first place, because they spent all their life playing with so-and-so, and they want to have a new injection, they want to have a different type of playing, so there's no point trying to play like you know, the band players. And that's what they get off on. You know, they've just spent 9 months on the road, and now they're doing their solo album, and it's nice to get, you know, different people to play. So no, not at all. Yes? When did I start drumming? Well, I started hitting things when I was about sort of 3. That's what I was told. Yeah, dustbins, you know, kindling, the lighting parts, and things. And it just went from there, really. And then my mother brought me a drum, a toy drum, I think. It didn't last as very long. And then, you know, that went in the dust, and then something else came on. Just slowly, this drum kit sort of grew and appeared, you know. As I grew, it grew, you know, sort of thing. So we played quite a long time. Yeah. I always such a huge kit used. I always use such a huge. Yes. I didn't always use such a large kit. Yeah. It sort of, you know, it grew like most people's drum kits. You don't go out and buy, oh, I like that one, I like that. You know. Usually can't afford it anyway. But no, I started on a normal drum kit. It's about really, I couldn't get rid of that pain. It's a normal, you know, 4-drum jazz kit. And then slowly, you know, 1 floor tom got added, then another rack tom, and then bass drum, simple, you know, it all grew. Until it grew into something like this. I've played this sort of kit now, really since 75, I would say. 1975, this type of kit, whether it be exactly the same, but it was a lot of drums anyway. It was my sort of, I suppose, philosophy for drumming. I treat that a bit like an acoustic piano. You take that tom-tom away, you've just taken 10 strings out. You know, to me it's like, it's one instrument. Even if you only hit one drum, it doesn't matter, it's still the instrument and it's all resonating, it's all part of it, you know. I don't look at drum kit as separate. Instruments, to me it's all one thing. And you know, to some engineers' dismay, I do turn up to the odd studio. Well, I always turn up to the old studio with one of these. And some of them are used to it because they know it, but people who don't know about it, they do get a little bit, you know. Can everybody hear me on this microphone? No? Should we go to this? No. Let's get rid of technology. Hello? Hello? Now, can we hear me? Can you hear me? No! Can you hear me? 1, 2. No! You must be able to hear me now. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah. Let's switch this thing on. Give it that one. Okay. Right.
Coming back here, Simon.
Yes, go on.
I noticed you're doing a lot of ride work with your left hand and also just with your left foot on the bass drum. Do you think it's good, as well as your right side, do you think it's good to do both sides in drumming?
Hang on, firework display. Say it again a bit slow, sorry, it's a little hard to...
I said, I noticed you're doing a lot of ride work just with your left hand and also just with your left foot, with the bass drum, as well as your right side. So do you think, have you specifically developed both sides when you're drumming?
I will repeat it for the people in the back. This chap here noticed that I'm doing a lot of left hand playing, left hand right, and a lot of, you know, left foot work and right hand side and right foot work. Yes. Or no, as the question may be. I started out playing right-handed. I was always a right-handed drummer. And as the kit grew, there became a few little physical problems. One of them is that I'm not very tall, and a drum kit like this is rather big. And also, if you play with your right hand on the hi-hat, it has to be a little higher, so you don't hit your hands when you're playing, which means that this tom-tom has to be higher. But then the other ones are lower, and you get tom-tom, you know, you get a range of tom-toms doing this. And I didn't like the look of it. Purely the look. It looked horrible, because I'm very into the aesthetics of a drumming kit. I like it to look a certain way. Like the colour of the green leaves. The matching of the black colour. So that was really, I suddenly had this thought, well, if I could play the hi-hat with my left hand, the hi-hat could then go down. And so could this tom-tom, and I'd have a lovely array for tom-toms. So I started to play, left-handed. It was 1975, I swapped over.
It is easier left-handed.
What?
Come across it. It is easier left-handed.
Sure. I found it easy. But I used to turn up to sessions and I just decided I'm playing left-handed. So I had a hi-hat down there, I had a right cymbal there, just in case I had another one up here. And I'd be playing this section, you know, playing away, and occasionally you'd run into a bit of difficulty because that hand wouldn't play what it was, you know, your brain sort of went, reverted again, you know, diverted. And you played something, you know, snare was on the hi-hat, hi-hat on the snare, all, you know. We kept time, of course, and we just carried on playing. Go into the control room, producer centre. Yeah, it sounded really good. Wasn't there funny drum fill in the middle of that. I said, where was that? Oh, I think it was going to the last chorus. So listen, you know, we listened to it, and it actually sounded quite cool, you know. I said, that sounds great. Oh, all right. Right, next song, you know. And this used to happen a lot. Until slowly, you know, the left hand got used to being the leader, really. And after about a year of doing that, I couldn't play right-handed again. It was really strange to put that up onto a cymbal and hit the snare with this hand. So now I purposely put cymbals up there so I hit, you know. And now it's pretty out of date. But that's just the style. Again, with this type of kit, you want to be as open as you can because you've got drums all around you. If you play, you know, a little 5-drum kit and you play orthodox grip, it doesn't matter. If you play well and you enjoy it, then you stick to that. You know, don't try. You know, it does take a long time, and it'll take a year out of your playing. You know, your playing will not progress. It goes backwards, but then something else happens. So it depends on your whole sort of attitude. Yes.
Who taught you how to play?
Hey, who taught me how to play? Well, I really taught myself. Really, I played to records. I would just go out and buy my favourite records, put it on, and not only play, I'd even tune the drum kit. Like this one, the little one I had. I'd try and tune it so it sounded the same as the record. I didn't realise that microphones did funny things to it, you know, what engineers do to producers. But to me, that was part of the thing. Before I could play that record, I couldn't play it for the sound I've got now. I've got to change the drum kit to it. And that's how I learned to play. My father was a Dixieland dance band leader, so I was very fortunate to have, you know, he knew how a band should sound, he knew how a drummer should sound. So there was a lot of discipline there. But basically, it was self-taught. Yeah.
How long did it take you to save up for this?
Come into my office. How long did it take me to save up to buy this? Explain things like sponsorship. It's a bit like saying, you know, how long did it take Adam Frost to save up for his McLaren? No, unfortunately it's not. You know, it's very embarrassing. Let's put it like this. Thank you very much.
$2, this is that's
No, but obviously at some time in my life I did have to save up and buy equipment. And basically, for me, it was, I just invested everything into it. You know, I maybe keep a little bit to eat and live, but I invested everything into drums. When I was about, I suppose, 16, 17, 18, the band I was playing with at the time, I mean, I'm sure that the only words they ever heard me mention was anything to do with drumming, Billy Cobham, drumming, Tony Williams, you know. Absolutely nothing else. Maybe food on that, but that was about it. But obviously now, and this is a massive traffic. This is, we've got 2 drum kits in Australia because we went Wellington, we had to piggyback kits, so we never get them there in time. And before I came to Australia, I was in Singapore, so there's another kit like this. And after Wellington, I go to Los Angeles and do 9 clinics across the States, and each one has a new drum kit. But it's all part of it's a very well-planned Japanese method.
How do you tune your drum kit? Do you start off with a separate key, or where do you tune from, where do you go to? Where do you start, how do you finish, what you have?
How do I tune my drum kit? Right. Tighten it up, I stand on it. stretch it. Really make sure it's stretched. I get the lowest note out of it without loads of wrinkles. And then you go to the Hilton Hotel and you take 4 towels.
We have a plan in the towels.
And you take the towels, and this is my method of damping. I know a lot of other people do a different thing, but I take 2 towels, put them together, and roll them up in such a fashion, and put them against the batter head, and put the and tape it to the batter head with gaffer tape. Are we on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Right. So you can probably see actually, there's gaffer tape holding the towel against the drum head. It's really important that the doesn't move away. A lot of times I see bass drums and it's like up to here. Whether all of that stuff, I don't know. I doubt it. People wouldn't need that much. And generally people put too much in. You really don't need that much. Because you put packing in, okay? Then you turn up to a studio or a sound check or something, you put a microphone on. It sounds a bit ringy, so you put a bit more in, and it sounds good. Then you take it away and go to the next studio, and you've got your bit more in. Another guy puts a microphone on it, and it's ringing again. So you put a bit more in, and until you end up going around in circles. So what I do is I put that in and no more. That's it. You know, if it doesn't work, then you know, we just find a way around it. The bass is just 2 towels wrapped up at the back. That's a 24-inch bass drum. It's quite a big drum. And then the front head, always that's also tuned fairly loose. And then I put a little bit down on the front head. And that's the bass drum sound. The way this drum kit's tuned today, exactly how I'd have it, whether it be a 48,000-seater arena or whether it be a studio. Never changes. I just take the same sound, exactly the same sort of miking. What you see here is a typical studio type miking. If it were a live gig or a large concert hall, there would be more overheads and they would be closer to the center. Because 9 times out of 10 there's a very loud guitarist just here and a very loud bass player over there. And of course they all end up in there. The tom-toms, tune it fairly tight. Again, you know, put a lot of weight in the stand, a lot of money to go through. Stretch the head, it's really important. Turn it over, put the bottom head on, do exactly the same, and tune the top and the bottom head exactly the same. Okay, so it's the same note. The reason I do that is because I've got 7 tom-toms. If I tune the bottom head looser, and the tom-tom went, you know, like that, if I did a fast roll around the drums, I might cover 5 drums. I'm sure you'd only hear about 3. So that's the reason why I make them keep a very constant tone. And I also try to go for the big one should sound big, and the little one should sound little, to get a real wide, you know, musical range, dynamic range. So top and bottom heads are the same. I use Remo and Bass as the clear heads. I know a lot of people tend to use pinstripes these days, but I just can't get on with them. The gong drum speaks for itself. Just hit it. The octagon's the same, just tune my head. You've only got one head to deal with them, which is easy. And the snare drum, again, I use a white coated head with a black spot underneath, really because if it were a plain head, I would mash it in just a few minutes. We did a tour with Mick Jagger in Japan recently, and I was going through 3 of those a night. We had 3 snare drums because we did like 7 songs. It wouldn't go through them, but they just end up with a big crater in the middle, you know. So, you know, I go, ready, next snare drum, take that one out, hold on, we come, quick tune up, and then we go to the next song, you know. And the other snare drum, I use just a normal white head. And that's the drum kit, really. How does it sound out there? Good, lovely. And of course, with every drum kit, it needs some cymbals with it. And for those who would like to know, we shall start in the left-hand corner, the right-hand corner. This is a 24-inch heavy swish knocker without any bits. This is a 12-inch splash. This is a rather special cymbal. It's actually a prototype. It's a 22-inch custom, K custom. This is a 19-inch thin crash. This is an 18-inch paper thin crash. This is a 22-inch China Boy High platinum finish. This is a 17-inch paper thin crash. The hi-hats are quite an old pair of new beat hi-hats actually. And this is a 13-inch Z hi-hat. I mean, you know, the cymbals are a very sort of characterful part of a drummer. You used to be able to tell the drummer by his cymbals. You know, had a very distinctive sound. Yes?
You come from a musical family?
Do I come from a musical family? Yes. Well, my father was a Dixieland band leader, yeah. So I couldn't help it. You know, dragged around into studios and things like that. Yes.
How much does the whole kit worth?
How much is this worth?
Yeah.
I don't know. $18. $18. 18,000? 18,000? I don't know. $18,000. Without the cymbals? But if you bought that, you get all the cymbals free. 2 free lessons, and the rig, and all the Italian food you can eat. Even a truck to ship it round in, you know. So I've seen it out the back. I can't see very well, so if anybody wants to ask a question from the back. Which drummers do I particularly like? And why? Okay, well, this high. People like Louis Bell, a little bit taller, I think that's Brady Tate, Jones, Keith Moon, Bobby Collenby, Buzz Lightyear, Danny Seraphin from Chicago. Single. And I told you, I used to play records, and usually I'd get and this particular one had a very roll. I listened to it. I sat down, and of course I couldn't get anywhere near it. The drummer on that was Billy Collins. And then of course I was a great fan of Billy, great fan of Lenny White's, and a lot of those American drummers, Stevie Gadd, all sorts of players. Now I tend to find myself liking any drama, but for a specific thing. I might just hear something on the radio or hear a track and think, no, that's really nice. What the drummer's doing there is fabulous. I don't know who it is, and then try and find out who it is. I think it just depends what the sound is like, playing, or the song it is. But those were the sort of main drummers. Yes? How many pieces?
Yeah.
What, in that drum kit?
Yeah.
How long is that? You have mine. 7 tons. 1 gold drum, 2 baritone, 2 snare drums, and a few cymbals. Yes, at the back. Yes, I did play on small groups. Did he? Words with him. I'm sure there was an inner sleeve or something. Maybe they didn't. It's a bit mean, isn't it? No, I did play on small groups day, yes. Any questions at the back? It's a little hard to see from here. And if you want me to play any little bits, yes, right at the back.
What are some of the more recent albums you've played on?
Some of the more recent albums, the most recent album I played on was Mick Jagger's Primitive Cool. Mike Oldfield, Islands, I co-produced that, co-engineered that. Mine, yes. You do forget my age. 42, you do forget. The last thing I did was in fact my own CD, which I think you just heard. Before that, can't remember. The trouble is, these days, I've been doing quite a lot of live work with Mick all this year. We were rehearsing in New York, January and February. March we went to Japan to do the tour. Went back to England, went straight into the CD, had a couple of weeks off and then came out here. So, this year there's probably been not a lot of chance. When I go back, I think in July I'm doing some more with Gary Moore. We're going to do another album today. Should be quite fun. How many drummers here today?
Mr. Brent McIver of Southern Image. Good, good.
How many bass players? Yeah. How many guitarists? Right. Singers? Yeah. French horn players? Yeah. Keys? Keyboard players? Computer operators? Racing drivers? Tavern chefs? Yes.
How many sticks would you go through for a concert?
It sounds like 3 syllables. How many drumsticks do I get through a night, through a concert? Actually, not as many as you might think, because I use these hickory drumsticks, which are made especially for me by Pro Mark. And hickory it doesn't tend to break, it tends to shatter. So you have to throw it away because basically it's losing weight actually, bits are flying off it, so it's getting lighter. Occasionally you do break it, and the hickory ones can break in the most strange place. I have one that broke here. I was left with this much. and you couldn't even throw it away because there wasn't enough weight to throw it. It's stuck. But generally, I think we get through about, with Mick, it was heavy going, so maybe I'd throw 2 or 3 away a night. So 3 pairs.
Do you reckon you hit as hard as Peter Hurst? Rob Hurst, I mean.
As who?
Rob Hurst.
No, I would doubt it. I'm sorry. I really don't know. We haven't had any questions. Well, we have one question from a lady, a young lady down here. Slightly older ladies? Any questions, anyone? Okay, right, up there. Is it film? Is it?
I want to ask about your practice time.
Ask about my practice?
Yeah, your practice time. Sit down for practice.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll use that question actually to demonstrate a few different types of practice as well. Bring it up. And
Yeah, these guys too much.
okay, practice. Well, see what I mean about them getting a bit blistered up here. Okay, practicing. Now, very difficult when you're on the road to practice. When you turn up for a sound check, you do your sound check. The last thing that anybody on stage wants to hear, the crew, sound engineers, is you do a drum solo. Because once you've done your sound check, it's the bass player's turn. So you have to get on, go into the pub or canteen, you know, where the food is, and backstage area. So it's very hard to practice on tour. But I mean, you get plenty of practice in the evening anyway. So the only time you really get is when you get a pair of sticks and you're in a hotel room and you have to make do with the bed or the sofa or the table. Backstage, the band might get a bit annoyed to hear this all the time. They get a bit, you know, driving us mad. So I tend not to do that because I'm very conscious about practicing in front of other band members. I'm actually very conscious about playing a drum solo. So when we get to the drum solo, when we're rehearsing, I don't do one. I sort of go, okay, let's go on. And they say, oh, what about drum solo? I'll do it when there's an audience there. You know, I don't want to bore you now, you know. Because I'm very conscious about boring people with a drum solo. I think it's very easy to do, you know. So, practice, well, I do tend to do this mostly on a sort of sofa in the hotel room. What do you practice? Well, that's a good thing. How do you warm up? Well, what I do is I take a series of what we call drum rudiments. Some of you obviously are going to know these very well. Some of you won't. I'll try and explain a little what they are. You know, every instrument has a basic rudiment, whether it's a scale, you know, or drum scale, which is a rudiment. And there are really various types of sticking. You know, it's not all just one hand after another. There might be two hands after another, you know. And there's all sort of jumbled up type things, like a thing we call a paradiddle, which looks like this. Double paradiddle. Triple paradiddle. Single stroke. Double stroke. Triple stroke. And what I do is I set myself a time. Okay, just a tempo, which will be, it shouldn't be very fast either. It should just be a relaxed feel, a relaxed tempo. Start playing like this, start with, you're going to be very tense. You've got to be very relaxed when you do this, so not too fast. And you jumble them up. First of all, say you do a single stroke. Then what you need to do is just tell your hands basically to play anything of those 6 rudiments, but jumble them all up, but keep the beat exactly the same. Keep it very constant and very even. Here we go. And that doesn't matter whether you're match grip like I am, whether you play left-handed, right-handed, left-handed, or whichever way. You know, it doesn't really matter. It's the same type of thing. But of course, doing things like that, it's only interesting for a certain amount of time. And then it gets really boring. So you have to think of ways to keep yourself interested. That's one of the main things about practice. Obviously these days, when I get home after a tour, do you want a microphone? When you get home from a tour, the last thing you want to see is a drum kit. You know, you've spent like 2 or 3 months out on the road, so you don't obviously get straight home and do practice, and I'm sure certain other people at home wouldn't like you to do that either. So you do tend to, keep away from the drum kit a little bit. So it's a bit of a battle, once it becomes a sort of profession. But obviously when I was younger, I did a lot of practice. Questions? Any? Yes?
I'd like to ask you about your personal achievements. How far, someone like yourself, how far do you intend on going? Will you continue to learn?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, I'm sort of interested to know about your personal goals and have you reached your personal highest achievement? And if not, how far do you intend on going? Like how far can you go as a musician as well as a drummer?
Okay, I'll try and repeat that for people who took me in. How far, well, I'm not going to get this right, but have I achieved my particular goal? Or if not, how far do I want to go? Is that about right? That's the gist of the question, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I think the thing that happens is it happens in stages. When I was younger, obviously, I was big. And then you realise that there are an awful lot of very good drummers around, and a lot of different styles of drumming. And I wanted to be a good soloist and play with lots of different people. Then it's sort of the thing about wanting to be the fastest drummer and whatever. That sort of subsided. I wanted to play with a lot of people. I wanted to play, especially with American bands, people like Stanley Clarke and Anthony Ola and Jan Hammer. Sorry?
Have you ever had the urge to learn another instrument besides?
I'll come to that. So the thing about working with Stanley and Anthony Ola, well, I did that. So, and then you play that music for a while, and then you start changing again. You start to think, well, your goals keep changing all the time. What happened to me was I did a lot of playing, and then I wanted to do something different. And that's when I started getting into recording and producing. And the last 6 years, I've been doing probably more engineering, more producing than playing. Because that side of it really interests me. And there's still an awful long way to go. There's an awful long way to go with drumming as well. That you'll never stop learning. But you do go in phases. There's a certain phase where you're able to take a lot in. You're able to improve, you're able to keep a goal. And there are times where it stops. And you can't seem to get any further. So you try something else, and that's got a very long way to go. And then after doing that thing for a while, you come back to playing again, and you really enjoy it. I find it happens all the time. I mean, it's funny. When I was 17, I sort of think what I thought then, but it hasn't really changed. I still want to play as well as I can. But now, I like to produce. I like to engineer. Really got into the sound side of things. Mixing desks and lining up tape machines and all those sort of things, which is all very interesting for me, anyway. And playing other instruments. I got into programming a Fairlight and Synclavier and QX1 stuff, playing a little bit of keyboards and things. A useless guitar player. Rotten singer, yeah, I love some. Rotten singer, awful bass player. But I can sort of get around. On the CD I played all the instruments on that, it's all keyboards, so I sort of get around. I wouldn't say I could play keyboards, never use that adjective, but sort of use them, and put them into a sequencer. Yes?
Why did you bring the second bass drum in here?
When or why?
Yeah, when and why?
When and why did I bring a second bass drum into the drum kit? Good question. I don't know, I suppose I've never seen anybody use two bass drums the way that I imagined they should be. I'd seen them in drum catalogues, and I thought, oh, that looks good. I'd seen a few people play them, and I thought, oh, is that all it does? I was very disappointed, actually. You know, I suppose I had this thing about what I thought two bass drums could do, until I saw, I think it was Tommy Aldridge playing Black Oak Arkansas a long time ago. And he was like the first person who I went, aha, now he knows what to do with two bass drums. And that was probably in 1974 I added the second bass drum.
Why is it you don't use like double kick pedals rather than...
Why don't I use one of those double pedals? Oh, the feel of a single pedal on a single bass drum is totally different from two pedals on one bass drum. It really dampens it. If you hit one side, then you hit the other one, it's like the head is still sort of back, hasn't had time to come back yet. It really restricts, and it's a sound that I can't stand. It's like a really muffled sound. This way, with each pedal, there's this 24-inch bass drum. You know, it's a lovely feeling. You can't get that on a double.